Hey guys, finally doing the PB-16 Ultra review. Just fair warning, Bear's been kind of in a mood. I turned the AC off and he started barking right away, so we might be hearing from him in this video. I'm trying out this new format. Let me know what you guys think. I'm just thought I'd give this a shot and see how it works out. I don't know if it'll work out for you guys on the viewing end, but I thought I'd give it a shot. All right, so I know it's taken me a while, but I'm finally getting it done. All right, so SVS has been cool enough to make me their first affiliate, and it's something I'm really proud of. And if you find my channel useful, it's not all about SVS products. I do some other stuff. I talk about Room EQ Wizard and stuff like that. But if you follow the links in the description, it's a great way to support the channel. It's something that doesn't cost you any extra, and you're still going factory direct. One of the problems people had when the PB-16 Ultra first came out is that some people weren't able to trade in their PB-13 Ultras because they bought them locally or from dealers. And the Bill of Rights is something that can vary between place to place, but from SVS directly, it's always the same. So that's just one of those things that I'd let you know about. And just so you guys know, phone orders are not tracked for me. Only links in the description, so even if you call and tell them, hey, I saw this video, it's why I'm calling, it still doesn't track. And the only way to track is going through the links in the description. I'm not saying you can't do phone orders, I'm just saying they don't really count for me, so which is fine. Do whatever works best for you. And another thing about the links is they're not product specific, so you don't have to search for the exact product. If you want to buy a cable or something like that, any link will do. You can follow a PB-16 Ultra link and it'll take in, you can order whatever, it doesn't really matter which link brought you there. So, all right, so, and I also want to point out that I'm not compensated any other way from SVS. You know, like this equipment here, it's not mine to keep. It's something they loan out for me so I can make, you know, content and stuff like that. You know, it's not like they pay me for, you know, they don't say like, hey, here's $100, say something nice. It's just not the way it works. But anyway, my opinions are independent. SVS offers tech advice, but they do not editorialize. I decide what I'm going to create. So they actually have their own channel, which you can see is much more professional. You can see what happens when they are in control of the content. All right, so something I really want to point out, duals are everything, okay? If bass is not super important to you, a single will get you by. If you've got a basic home theater in a box with a single sub, no big deal, okay? It's not that big a deal to you, all right? But if you're looking at this subwoofer, bass is extremely important to you. If you're looking at a $2,500 subwoofer, you obviously take it seriously, okay? And the way I feel about it is buying a single PB-16 Ultra is like buying a Nissan GTR and putting cheap tires on it. It's just a bad idea. It's a disadvantage, okay? I've gone into why I think dual subs are important, and I just felt I would be really not helping my audience if I didn't really touch on this, because I was unwilling to do this review until I had duals. I had tried them with different size subs and all this other stuff. I never really got the full impression until I had both. So that's something really important to understand. At this level, yeah, it's got to be duals. It's got to be. All right. Now, I'm not saying that you should go out and spend twice as much, you know, because some people would say, well, that's better for you if they spend twice as much. Well, of course it is, but what I'm saying is split your budget, okay? And go factory direct to ensure that you still get trade up. All right, the trade up is within a year, you can send your subs back and they'll actually credit that full amount you spent, less shipping towards the new product. And I'll tell you right now, that beats Craigslist all day long. Like if you go and you try and sell your subs on Craigslist, you're not going to get as much for it as you paid new, like SVS is willing to do. So, but again, you have to go factory direct for stuff like that most of the time. I mean, you can check, but most of the time you just want to go factory direct for that kind of thing. All right. And so dual PB12 Plus will get you about the same output as a single PB-16 Ultra. Now, it has fewer bells and whistles. It doesn't have, you know, the new amp. It doesn't have the apps. It doesn't have the remote control. There's a lot of things you don't get with that. But with a $2,500 budget, that's exactly what I would do personally, having experienced everything I've experienced. Duals are vital, guys. I've can't hammer this hard enough, because again, if you're spending this much money on bass, you got to do it right. And I think doing a single is just a mistake. All right, so some of the technical numbers: 1500 watts RMS, 5000 watts peak. So I'm running 3 kilowatts RMS and 10 kilowatts peak in this room with duals. It's a lot of power. And I don't need an extra circuit. There's plenty of capacitance in these subwoofer amplifiers. Basically the storage. It stores up all that power so it's ready to go and just give you a pummeling. And it does. It's got a massive 8-inch voice coil, and again, I tried to get one of these. I don't think I'm going to, but you can see it in one of the SVS videos where, you know, you can see him handling a voice coil. It's maddening. It's crazy. It's huge. SVS was uncomfortable going with larger drivers with smaller voice coils. They didn't like the way it came out, and that's their personal thing. But that's why they've always kept it down to a 13-inch for their biggest driver. But now with this 8-inch voice coil, they've got a much bigger driver for the 16-inch sub. You've got RCA and XLR inputs. Otherwise, the back panel is pretty sparse. Most everything else is done through the app or the remote control. It's definitely got true 13 hertz performance in room. I can't even hear that low, but I can see it on the mic when I measure. It's there and it's powerful. It's got flat response that gets louder as you go deeper, which matches human hearing. As we hear lower and deeper frequency tones, it becomes harder for us to hear. And if you look at some of my response graphs on the website and stuff like that, you'll notice that they go louder as they go deeper. And that gives you basically the same impression of complete flatness. So that's one of the reasons SVS subs are so popular. They actually match the human hearing response, and it's a really impressive thing, especially if you've never heard it before. All right, now onto the app and the remote control. Now, remotes are nothing new. They've had remote controls for other subwoofers before. They may have even had apps before, I'm not entirely sure, but this app is absolutely awesome. It does a lot of different things. I'll be actually doing a separate video just on the app features and things like that. But the app it gives you so much control. It's very well thought out. And previously you had to kind of choose between bells and whistles and performance. You could get a sub that had a remote control. You know, you can get subs with all kinds of neat bells and whistles, but to have subs that had this much performance backing them up is quite unique. Now the remote is one of these cool things. This is one of the things I like about this remote. It's aiming, okay? So I don't know if this is a happy accident or what, but basically, you know, of course it's not going to work right now. As you point to the sub, it adjusts each one individually, okay? So if I just point at this sub and turn this one up, this sub doesn't go up in volume. It's just that sub. So it's got like a narrow beam so you can point to it. It doesn't really help so much if you've got subs that are behind you or obstructed from view, but for me it's worked out really well. I really enjoy having the remote. It allows me to go through and check out different things like gain effects and adjusting all that stuff. So it's been really fun for me. I've enjoyed the remote actually more than I thought I would. All right, and as I pointed out, the app is very well thought out. You can change the display and you can lock it. So if you've got kids that like to push buttons, you can lock that display so they can't change the front panel. So that's another handy thing. The app also allows multiple subs, which I think is completely necessary. And you can actually change the names too. So I've got this one set up as left and that one set up as right. So that's kind of cool. And the app is much easier to make adjustments than the remote. The remote in the front panel will work, but in the app you can actually see the PEQ graphs and things like that. So rather than guessing how the Q adjustments will change your response, you can actually see it. That visualization I think is really important. A lot of guys have these PEQs on their subwoofers on the back panel, and they don't really know exactly how that Q response is going to change things. This puts it in a visual context so you can have a lot better understanding. So that's handy. And also be sure to save your presets, because as you go through and change things, if you don't save the preset and you change from music to movie, it will change everything back to factory default. you've got to save everything in the factory preset, or in the preset, so that when you make changes, everything gets transferred over. So you don't want to like change from music to movies and have your port tuning change or something like that. That's one of those things I thought I caught as a flaw, but it was actually just me not reading directions. So that's one of those handy little tips I'll give you. Now I'm going to touch on the performance of the PB-16 Ultra. And honestly, I've never heard anything quite like it. I've heard subs that are louder. Okay, I've been to concerts. Okay, I've definitely heard louder subs, but I've never heard anything quite like this. It's a little bit different. It's got power and depth, and it's just such a strong performance, but it's not so loud that it hurts. And that's another point I'll go into in a minute. But I understand the desire for more power. The PB-2000s, for example, are great. I think that they're still one of my favorite subs. They do so well in everything. It's a fantastic sub. But the PB-16 Ultras, and I have to assume everything in between because I haven't heard the PB-12 Plus yet or the PB-13 Ultra yet. But as you go up in power, it's just increasing the sure-footedness of the subs. And the sound you get is more solid and more convincing. It's something else. It's next level. Music is as it should be. It doesn't really change music all that much. Unless it's really hard hitting, then you get a difference. Like Metallica hits harder. But if it's overdone, it's probably just too much gain rather than the sub. That's been my experience. I think you can balance these subs for just about any size and room, and I'm actually going to be testing that out in the future. But movies are more convincing, and the realism is outrageous. One of the other reasons I wanted to reshoot this video is because in between the time I shot it and and now I watched Hacksaw Ridge. Wow, that is an excellent base movie. It's gory, it's like Saving Private Ryan kind of gory, all right, but it's a great story, but the scene where they're firing off the guns from the naval ships, wow, that's amazing. That's a great demo scene. It was just impressive, and I didn't even have like the good, format. I just had Dolby Digital. I've been ordering these Netflix movies, and the one that came out, I expect sometimes they won't be Dolby Atmos when ordinarily they would be, but this didn't even have like True HD or DTS Master. It was just basic Dolby Digital, so it wasn't even that good a sound. I'm going to be ordering a 4K copy and try it out with that, but it wasn't even the best sound, and man, it was just amazing. I mean, it was like you were there, just without the hearing damage. And these subs are legitimately concerning. I still get a nervous giggle every now and then when I'm watching a new movie. I haven't seen everything out there. And there are still these scenes that just come in and just surprise me. And it just makes me giggle and nervously because it's like, oh my gosh, that was an amazing scene. And of course that happened with the PB-2000s and all the other subs I've listened to, but this is different. This gets you in the chest, and it's such a more visceral experience. It's insane. There's tons of headroom with these subs. I'm not willing to find the limits of these things, primarily because this house was built in the 50s. I have serious concerns. I don't want to shake it apart. It's really is. I've joked about, hey, maybe if your foundation's not that great. Now it's a serious concern. Now I'm not joking anymore. It's serious. It can really. These things are something else. Again, I'm not willing to find the limits. I do prefer standard mode over extended, and I'll go into why in a future video, but standard is so good to begin with, and extended maybe drops you down an extra half a hertz, maybe, or a hertz. Not that impressive. I really like the standard mode more than anything else. And it's still incredibly comfortable in ported modes. Which brings me to my next point, is the PB-16 Ultra versus the SB-16 Ultra. I've done a video on ported versus sealed. I've done an article on it, and I have pressure issues in my ears. And so when I listened to a sealed sub, I got the SB-2000, shoot, I think it was a little over a year ago, and or more than that actually. I've been doing this for a while. Anyway, I noticed that I have some ear fatigue going on because there's a difference in pressure, and it's uncomfortable. And it's not something that everybody has, but it's something I have. And so in sealed mode, I tried it with these. I put all 3 port plugs in, switched over to sealed mode, and I still had pressure issues. And it's not something that everybody has, but it's just unlucky, and particularly unlucky for me because it rules out a whole bunch of subs that I can't listen to now. I mean, at least I can listen to them, but it's not something I'm going to truly enjoy. And I'll say that ported is more pet friendly, more friendly most likely to those with autism, people with headache issues, things like that. And another point I'll make is that both when I had the SB-2000s and when I had these in sealed mode, Angel's ears would flicker because she didn't like the sound. It was bothering her, and she'd get up and walk out of the room. It happened with the SBs, and it happened with these. It happened with the SB-2000s, and it happened with these in sealed mode. So I'm basically telling you guys this because if you're going to spend this much money on subs, I think that kind of information helps. So that's one of those things, and for that reason, I will not be actually reviewing the SB-16 Ultra. I won't be actually having it here in my home. I don't want to have SVS spend the shipping money and all that stuff to send it out when I already know what's going to happen. So, but I will say that if you enjoy sealed subs, the SB-16 Ultra makes a ton of sense. It's less money, less floor space, very deep presentation, and that I think is the cool part of it. In terms of home theater performance, there's very little penalty for the SB-16 Ultra, and I know that from switching these over to the sealed mode. It still sounds like a ported sub in sealed mode. Now I understand the box size is different, all that good stuff, but essentially everything I understand about it, it's going to be, you're not going to notice much difference at all. Well, there is a difference between the PB-16 Ultra and the SB-16 Ultra, no doubt. But in the sealed mode, these still sound like a big ported box. And it's just in a smaller box. And I've run sealed modes and other subs before and definitely not had the same experience. So if you're into sealed subs and you don't have any of those ear issues, the SB-16 Ultra, it makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't persuade anybody away from buying it. I think it's a very, very smart sub. I just can't personally enjoy it because of my own pressure issues with my ear. All right. Yet another reason for the delay was something I said in the video was that it's not that much bigger than the PB-2000s, which is so untrue. It's ridiculously untrue. The point I was trying to make is in my room, they don't really take up that much more space. All right, so they're not that much bigger, but they really are that much bigger. You really want to check the dimensions and stuff like that. Here goes Bear. 175 pounds, crate shipped, extremely dense. It's like they made these things out of concrete. I mean, they are very heavy for their size, which they need to be. They're probably not ideal for apartments, just saying. Isolation is a must for wood floors, and I'll tell you why. I could feel these subs when I didn't have the isolation all throughout the house. I could feel it in my feet when I was in my bathroom, which is far away, and in my back bedroom, I could feel it on my feet through the floor. And when I put the isolation on, it wasn't nearly as bad. You can walk, the only time you can really feel it in your feet is when you walk up close to them. So it does a pretty good job of decoupling the subs from the floor. But if you have wood subfloors, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially for these because they're putting out so much power. If you have a concrete floor, probably not so much. It's not that big of a concern because the floor is not absorbing and then kicking out sound like it does in a wood floor. Wood floor takes that sound and pushes it back out in whatever form your wood floor is going to produce. So that's one of the reasons it makes, it's not that great to have, subwoofers on wood floors because it can be an issue. And granted, there are some people that like to have subwoofers in wood floors because they make such a a weird, such a reverberation, and you can feel it more. I don't know, I like the sound better than the feeling, personally. Another thing about these are they're very deep. They go back quite a bit. So that's an issue that you should be aware of. I actually pulled my entertainment center out a little bit so that it didn't look so buried in there. So that's something to be concerned about, is the depth of these things, not just in extension, but in physical dimensions. But I've got to say, they still look very nice, and I don't think they would be out of place, you know, next to a grand piano or something like that. They're very pleasant looking. They fit in a living room. A lot of subs that are, you know, I would say competing in this area, some of them have 2 and 3 drivers, and they're stacked kind of tall, which makes it just a little more difficult for the wife acceptance factor or spouse acceptance factor. So that's a concern. But these actually look pretty nice in a living room. Now, of course, there's going to be people that say, that's way too big. And I get that. I'm a little bit biased to having bigger subs in the living room, so it doesn't bother me as much. But I think these still work in a living room. They don't look like, I don't know, they look very nice. So I'll just go with that. And I've actually got both finishes here. That's the piano gloss, and that's the black oak. I personally prefer the black oak because it's lower maintenance. I got the dogs. It's just easier to take care of. I'm a little more nervous about the piano gloss, but it is absolutely gorgeous though, absolutely gorgeous. The sound, some people say home theater subs aren't great for music. I say balderdash. I think these home theater subs sound fantastic for music. And one thing that's important to point out is these things will deliver gentle bass when the bass is gentle. Okay, so things like Nora Jones and Diana Krall and stuff like that. My wife told me I spelled Diana Krall's name wrong and I didn't correct it. Sorry, Diana, I apologize. Anyway, with their music, it is still nice and smooth, and it's not like beating you to death when you're listening to like jazz and stuff like that. You put in Metallica, you get a lot more of a response. You get more of a kick than you would with a lower wattage sub. So, so these are like, they're more bass without being louder, and this is a really weird thing to explain, but you get more dynamics, but still being balanced and not overdone. And if you guys aren't sure what I'm talking about, you can check out my video adjusting subs by ear, and so you understand what I'm talking about. But essentially, these subs can be adjusted to fit in anything, but they give you more bass and more dynamics without being louder or overbearing. It's a really weird thing to explain. It's something you kind of have to hear to understand, but it's just more. I don't know how else to explain it. And my listening habits aren't much different than they were with the PB-2000s. These are just more impressive. So when the cannons go off or there's thunder, it's just more. It's not louder. It's not really much deeper. It's just more of it. And I don't know how to really articulate that, but it is just more impressive. I can't really describe it any other way. And it's a lot cleaner in terms of distortion and stuff like that. The distortion on these is extremely low. Wattage is absolutely awesome, and it's most beneficial with movies. And this is the best way I can explain it. It's the 0 to 60 time, okay? So going from a dead stop to going forward in an explosion scene, it's moving the sub from here at a dead stop forward. That requires the power. Like, that's where the true power comes in, is moving from here to here. How much power you have is going to translate into how impressive it feels. The realism, how strong the bass is going to feel. That's where the wattage comes in. So with gentle music, you're not going to notice that much. But with movies and scenes like that, oh, you're going to notice. I mean, it just, bam! I mean, you feel that energy. Explosions are real. It's like you're there. Okay, when I say realism, I mean realism. It's genuinely startling to hear stuff when you don't expect it. I watched a movie where there was an explosion in the backyard, and It was a Sicario. Man, I jumped. Both my wife and I jumped because it was just like, it takes you a minute to realize you're just watching a movie. And it's startling. It's amazing. It's absolutely fun. And there are scenes I've never seen before, and I get shaken. Now, it's not quite like Bear. Bear barks for no reason, out of nowhere, at full speed, and when he does that, I feel like I need a defibrillator. But, but with movies, at least I'm expecting it. But it really does. These subs are just so much more powerful and amazing. It's something else. And usually when I have new people try this out, because believe me, that's one of the fun things about what I do. Letting people check it out, I usually get big eyes and worried looks, and then followed by nervous laughter. And it's funny because people are like, oh my gosh, and they look around, they're checking around, is that okay, is that okay? Because it's that powerful. It's amazing. I really enjoy it. So I'm going to go into some tips about the PB-16 Ultra. Use super sliders, especially with isolation. And again, I'll point out the isolation is usually for wood floors, concrete floors, probably don't need it. But you want to use them to slide them around and stuff. And when I get them in position, then I take the sliders out. A lot easier on the back, guys. Trust me on that one. And when you go to unload this thing, you want to grab deep into the handles of the box. I didn't do that. Well, I did it. My helper didn't, and we dropped it. So don't do that. Probably don't drop a $2,500 subwoofer. Not the best thing to do. Delivery is a big deal. They won't just leave it on the porch. They show up in a semi with a pallet jack. I mean, this isn't something small. These are a big deal. Again, save your settings on the presets. Switching between music and movies will change everything, including port tuning, unless you save the preset. So if you put it in sealed mode and don't save it on the preset, and go to change it from movie to music or vice versa, it'll change it back to standard port tuning. So you don't want to do that. So really pay attention to the presets. That's an important thing. Run room correction for different port modes. As you switch between standard, extended, and sealed, you want to run room correction for those different profiles. I mean, you can try it just to see what it sounds like, but if you're looking for a long-term setup, definitely run room correction. And if you have kids, use the display lockout mode as something that you may not realize is even there, but you can lock the display so little fingers can't go up and turn your subwoofer all the way up to max, and then when you turn it on, you get a very, very nasty surprise. So that's just one of those things you want to look out for. And again, when it comes to these subs, go dual or go home. I cannot be more clear about this. It's important. If you don't go dual, I don't know, man, if you're taking it this seriously, take it all the way seriously and go duals. And as far as the circuits go, I would worry about them if you get dimming. Now I've got lights here, all right, so I can turn these lights off. And when I had all these lights on the exact same circuit and cranked it up and cranked it up and cranked it up, I did finally actually get some dimming. But I mean, we're talking, I was running some serious power in here. So if you get dimming and it's an issue, then, address it, take a look at the circuit breaker, those kinds of things. But really, there's plenty of capacitance in these subs to run them off a normal circuit. You don't have to have a custom-built home theater with a dedicated 60 amp circuit just to run your subs. These are on a regular 15 amp circuit, along with my amplifier, TV, and all that other good stuff. So they are powerful, but the way they're set up, you don't need to have a mainline run just to run these things. That's a concern I know some people have. Anyway, so my final thoughts. These aren't really my final thoughts. I've got more things to cover. This is my overview. This is a basic covering everything all at once. But there's more to come. I still have to discuss the app and show you guys all the different features that are in that, because that's a whole other subject all by itself. And some other issues I'm going to be covering in the future as well. So this isn't the end, but this is the basic overview. This sub is ideal for home theater, and it's a true connoisseur subwoofer. If you want the best bass possible, this is definitely a sub you should be considering, of course assuming you're going to get two. It's really amazing, very low distortion, a lot of benefits to it. There's really nothing like it, all things considered, the app and all that stuff, along coupled with the ultra low distortion, the ultra deep extension and all that good stuff. It really is kind of a unique subwoofer. It's a very impressive subwoofer overall, and I did a video almost a year ago when I first heard these things were coming out, and I'm just as excited about them now as I was then. Hearing them has just reinforced how I feel about them. They really are impressive. There is no trade-up with these. This will be the flagship for a long time, so you know this is SVS's best. So there's not. Will they go to a PB-18 or a PB-22? They haven't indicated it so. So this will be their best for quite some time, and it's quite a good job. And this thing makes it a lot of fun to break out Jurassic Park in 3D. It's way better than the theater ever was. It's a lot more fun in this situation. I remember seeing it in the movies, and it was, you know, it was fun, but this is just a step above. Having good subs like this is just insane. It's quite a different experience. And then the 3D too, which I am annoyed that they got rid of, but that's just a fun movie. And I didn't capitalize the P. Oh, I'm really boning on this one. Anyway, and it still looks nice in the living room. You know, again, they are large, they do take up space, but they do look really nice. I'm in no hurry to send these back. And I want to point out something too. I have fairly sensitive ears. Concerts hurt my ears. I usually take earplugs with me when I go to them. But with these subs, these are an all-day subwoofer. I can listen to these all day long. Very comfortable, very enjoyable. So I've really been enjoying them. But anyway, I appreciate you guys' support and the patience on this video. I know it's been taking a while. This channel has grown because of my viewers. Without you guys, I wouldn't be where I'm at, so I really appreciate that. I really appreciate SVS's involvement. Ed Mullen, Nick Brown, Smith Freeman, everybody over there has been fantastic. Giving me a lot of information, helping me through things and understand them, and again, passing that information on to you guys. So I appreciate their involvement. My health wouldn't allow me to work in this field any other way. So it's being able to talk about stuff I like in a way that I can. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the understanding for the simple, lackluster videos. I know there are people that make much better videos and things like that. I appreciate that you watch mine. I really do. I also appreciate the support by following the links. You know, I don't put out a tip jar or a donation button or anything like that. That to me seems a little weird. But if I'm talking about a product that I genuinely believe in, and you guys are buying that product because of my recommendation, it just kind of makes sense. So that's one reason why I really push for the affiliate program. And I'll be talking about, you know, I'd be talking about SVS products even if there wasn't an affiliate program. So I think that's, you know, I think that points something out. I'm just happy that they actually did this program for me, because essentially they didn't have to, and I really appreciate it. And I've gotten lots of other product offers and to try things out, and I've actually had people send stuff out, and I'm just like, I can't talk about this stuff with my viewers. No way. Not good enough. If I'm requesting something, likely it's going to be good. But I've had people want to send me all kinds of stuff and not been happy. But anyway, guys, stay tuned for more. You know, if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm going to be talking more about bass, the new vinyl stuff. I've got new subs I'm going to be reviewing, Room EQ Wizard stuff, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. Sorry it took so long to do this, but hey, I finally got it done, right? Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.